Today's story is both shocking and complicated, a tale that took nearly a decade to unravel and bring justice. It's the heartbreaking story of a 21-year-old nun whose brutal murder in 1992 was finally solved after 28 long years in December 2020. This is the story of Sister Abhaya. Our story begins in the quiet, serene town of Kottayam, Kerala, back in 1992. Like many other Christian towns in Kerala, Kottayam was a peaceful place, with churches and convents scattered throughout the area. These places of worship were more than just buildings. They were the heartbeat of the community, places where people gathered for prayer, fellowship, and spiritual growth. Among these sacred sites was the well-known saint, Pascal 10th Convent, a significant landmark for the locals. The convent hosted a large number of young women, some studying, others training to become nuns. Among them was a bright and dedicated 21-year-old nun named Sister Abhaya. She had come to this convent with a strong sense of purpose, to serve God, help others, and deepen her faith. Like many students, Sister Abhaya was enrolled at a nearby pre-degree college preparing for her exams. Determined to succeed, she decided to wake up early one morning to get a bit of extra study time. Sister Abhaya set her alarm, went to bed, and woke up around 4 a.m, quietly greeting a few of her fellow nuns in the convent. She then sat down to begin studying, surrounded by the peaceful silence of the early morning hours. But after a while, she felt the need to take a break. It was a typical moment of rest for any student burning the midnight oil. She left her books and headed toward the kitchen, perhaps to drink some water or splash her face with cold water to stay alert. The next morning, when the other nuns woke up, something seemed off. Sister Abhaya was nowhere to be found. This was strange. The other nuns searched for her and went to the kitchen, only to find an open water bottle, water spilled on the floor, and one of Sister Abhaya's slippers lying on the ground. But where was she? No one knew. The search quickly grew more urgent. Soon, they discovered the other slipper near the convent's well. When one of the nuns went closer to the well and peered inside, she was horrified to see Sister Abhaya's lifeless body at the bottom. The fire department was called to the scene, and the police arrived soon after. The tragic scene was heartbreaking for everyone who had known and loved Sister Abhaya. Just the night before, they had shared dinner with her, laughed together, made plans for the future, and even joked about her early morning alarm. Now, that same young woman was being carried out lifeless from the well. The local police officer, V.V. Augustine, arrived at the scene as part of the routine procedure. After the body was recovered, he wrote up a report, had a photographer take pictures of the scene and the body, and then sent the body for an autopsy. During the autopsy, doctors noted cuts and bruises on Sister Abhaya's body, as well as a serious head injury. Despite this, the cause of death was officially listed as drowning, with a mention that suicide was possible, though murder couldn't be ruled out. However, many people found this explanation hard to accept. Why would Sister Abhaya set an alarm to study and then take her own life? The details surrounding her death seemed puzzling. The refrigerator door was left open, the water bottle cap was off, and water was spilled all over the floor. Her slipper was left carelessly on the floor, as though she had been in a hurry. Everything about the scene felt rushed, incomplete, almost as if someone was trying to cover up the truth. The circumstances didn't add up, and the community began to question the official explanation. Many believed that Sister Abhaya's death was not a suicide, but a murder, and that someone was trying to hide the truth, especially because the tragedy took place within the walls of a convent. This was a place of peace, of prayer, and of religious devotion. How could such a brutal incident have occurred in such a sacred place? The more the community discussed it, the more unsettled they became. An activist named Joan Puem Paracle took up the cause and formed a committee to seek justice for Sister Abhaya. It was clear that the truth had not been fully revealed, and her death had raised many questions. On April 16, 1992, after months of public outcry, the case was handed over to the crime branch for further investigation. For months, the crime branch conducted a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding Sister Abhaya's death. The case had moved from the hands of the local police to those of the more specialised unit, But despite their efforts, the final report that was released concluded that Sister Abhaya's death was a suicide. By that time, however, Sister Abhaya had already been buried, and the clothes she had been wearing were destroyed, leaving very little physical evidence to support any further investigation. The entire case became a source of deep controversy, and soon it was no longer just a local issue but a topic of statewide debate. The media covered it extensively, and people from all corners of Kerala were coming up with their own theories and suspicions. The questions surrounding her death were far from over. Who was responsible? Why was the truth hidden for so long? And how could such a devastating tragedy occur inside the sacred walls of a convent? The years passed, and the case seemed to fade into the background of everyday life, yet it never truly disappeared. It lingered in the minds of those who knew Sister Abhaya, those who believed she had not taken her own life. The pain of her loss, coupled with the unanswered questions, remained as raw and real as ever. The case of Sister Abhaya's tragic death became one of the most mysterious and controversial investigations in recent history. While many theories emerged about what truly happened, the nuns at the convent were increasingly disturbed by the way things were unfolding. The growing pressure from the media, activists, and even society itself only intensified the situation. Naturally, the case was handed over to a higher authority, the Central Bureau of Investigation, adding to the complexity of the case. The questions only multiplied. How could this case be so shrouded in mystery? Why were crucial pieces of evidence seemingly disappearing? The case of Sister Abhaya remains a powerful and tragic reminder of the complexities surrounding justice and truth. Despite decades of investigation, we are still left with more questions than answers. How could something so simple, her death, become such a convoluted, unsolved puzzle? The disappearance of evidence, the conflicts of interest, and the endless delays have made this case a symbol of frustration, confusion, and despair. The mystery surrounding Sister Abhaya's death continues to haunt the people who have been following the investigation. Many are still searching for the truth, and while the case remains unsolved, the question of who is responsible for her death continues to demand an answer. The case was at a standstill. Many suspects had been questioned, and some had even died without ever being formally charged. Despite numerous leads and investigations, no solid evidence was found against anyone. Just when it seemed like the case would never see closure, something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, a witness came forward with a key piece of evidence. But the real question was, who was this witness? This unexpected witness was none other than a thief, a common, unknown thief from 1992. Could his testimony really be trusted? Surprisingly, not only was his statement taken seriously, but it also turned the entire direction of the investigation upside down. His involvement brought a new light to the case, and as events unfolded, the truth began to emerge. If you're watching this so far, please show your support by liking this video and helping us reach 30,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. The man at the centre of this breakthrough was Dakar Raju. He admitted to committing thefts around 1992. His method was simple. He would steal from various places, sell the stolen items, and use the money to feed himself and his family. On the night of March 27, Raju made his way to the St. Par convent, planning to steal copper rods and wires from the roof. These materials were meant to protect the building from lightning strikes, and Raju thought he could sell them for a good price. He arrived under the cover of darkness, hoping to carry out his theft without being caught. However, what he witnessed that night would change everything. He noticed someone moving stealthily around the convent grounds, a figure whose presence struck him as unusual. This wasn't just any person, it was a priest, Father Thomas Kodor. What was a priest doing at the convent in the middle of the night? This thought lingered in Raju's mind, but the strangeness didn't end there. Raju also saw two other figures, Sister Abhaya and Sister Ci. The scene he had stumbled upon was so bizarre and eerie that it stayed with him for years. As a thief, Raju had grown used to seeing suspicious things in the dark, but this felt different. This wasn't just a routine crime, it was something deeply unsettling. Yet he was in a bind. Raju had gone to the convent with the intention to steal So how could he speak up about what he had seen without implicating himself in the crime he was already committing? The next day, Raju read about Sister Abhaya's tragic death, and he saw the police's comments on the case. Something didn't sit right with him. He had gone to steal, but now he felt a sense of guilt and concern. Was there a connection between what he had witnessed and the murder? The more he thought about it, the more he felt compelled to come forward with the truth. What Raju did next was shocking. He went to the police and told them everything he had seen that night. Can you imagine the shock when they heard his story? But here's where it gets complicated. Instead of treating him as a witness, the police immediately arrested him, accusing him of the murder. They came up with a simple theory. Raju had entered the convent to steal, and while doing so, he had encountered a nun. When she screamed, he panicked, killed her, and threw her body into the well before escaping. It seemed like a straightforward explanation, but it was far from the truth. Raju was held in custody for 58 days, during which he endured various forms of torture. He claimed that he was pressured to confess the murder. The authorities offered him bribes, money, a job, assistance for his children's schooling, and even a house, if he would just admit to the crime. Raju's scrap dealer Shamir was also targeted and tortured to try to get him to back up Raju's alleged confession. However, neither Raju nor Shamir would yield to the pressure. Despite the threats, the bribes, and the manipulation, Raju stood firm. Why? What made him refuse to take the easy way out? It was his integrity. Raju, despite being a petty thief, had an honesty that couldn't be broken by corruption or fear. It was this courage that earned him respect, even from the very court that was supposed to convict him. Against all odds, this seemingly small-time criminal became the unexpected hero in a case that had stumped so many. At this point, the case took a dramatic turn. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, now had two primary suspects, Father Thomas Kodor and Father Jose Purikel. There were new revelations that placed them squarely in the investigation. A neighbour living near the convent came forward with a shocking claim. They had seen Father Thomas Kodor's scooter parked at the convent on the night of March 26th. This neighbour had gone to a nearby shop for tea and, upon returning around midnight, had noticed the scooter parked outside the convent. Initially, they hadn't thought much of it, but when they heard about the case, their memory seemed to sharpen. They returned to the authorities with a new story, saying, "I saw the scooter that night. I didn't realise at the time, but now I see it for what it was." The new testimony raised even more questions. What was Father Thomas doing at the convent in the middle of the night? Was there a deeper connection between him, the other priests, and the tragic death of Sister Abhaya? The investigation was far from over, and the twists in this case were only just beginning to unfold. Under intense pressure, Raju was one of many witnesses who turned against the case. However, when he spoke to the police about his knowledge, they already had a few suspects. So why didn't they investigate Raju's account further? Why didn't they look into his testimony, even a little? Or was there someone higher up instructing them not to pursue it? Raju claimed he was being offered money to remain silent, but who had enough resources to back him? And the biggest question of all, if Raju was telling the truth, what was Father Couture doing at the convent that fateful night? A rumour began to spread. Father Couture, it was said, had confided in a friend that he and Sister Sophie, both from the convent, were like a married couple. This revelation was shocking, but not entirely new. There had been whispers before, with several nuns inside the convent and even people outside discussing similar claims. As time passed, more people began to talk, and the whispers grew louder. Finally, in 2008, after Raju's testimony, the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, named Father Thomas Couture, Sister Sophie, and Father Jose Putrikyle as the primary suspects in the murder case of Sister Abhaya. The accusations rocked the community, and public attention intensified. In response, the defence lawyer for the accused attempted to undermine Raju's credibility. He painted him as a professional criminal, bringing up at least 10 criminal cases against Raju, most of which had him as the accused. Raju didn't deny his criminal past, but in doing so, he turned the lawyer's argument against him. Despite his criminal history, Raju remained resolute in his testimony. He was determined to seek justice for Sister Abhaya, whose life had been cruelly taken. As a result of Raju's statement, Father Thomas Couture, Sister Safi, and Father Jose Putri Kyle were sent to Bangalore for narco-analysis tests. The doctor in charge of conducting these tests was Dr. Malini. The results were recorded on 3 CDs and sent to the Kerala Judiciary Court and the Kerala High Court for review. However, it was later discovered that the CDs containing the narco test results had been tampered with. Dr. Malini was called in to explain the discrepancies, but by that time, she had already been suspended, leaving the narco test reports incomplete. Everyone who had been present during the tests was questioned, but they all denied any tampering of the CDs. To uncover the truth, the narco test CDs were sent to the Central Forensic Development Imaging Technology, CFDIT. The CFDIT conducted a thorough analysis of the digital evidence and made a shocking discovery. The first CD, which belonged to Father Thomas Couture, contained a full recording of 32 minutes and 50 seconds. However, it had been edited more than 30 times. The second CD, which contained Father Jose's test, was 40 minutes and 55 seconds long and had been edited 19 times. The last CD, for Sister Safi, was only 18 minutes and 42 seconds long, but had been edited 23 times. After this tampering incident came to light, the Kerala High Court ordered the CBI to present the original CDs of the narco tests in court within 10 days. But just a few days later, the original recordings were mysteriously aired on a local television station in Kerala. The question remains, how did the original recordings get broadcast and who aired them? The revelations in the narco test recordings were staggering. They revealed a shocking truth. According to the recordings, on the morning of March the 27th, 1992, Sister Abhaya woke up at around 4 a.m. It was unusually warm, so she went to the fridge in the convent to get some water. As she was drinking, she heard some noises coming from the kitchen. Curious, she went to investigate. What she found would change everything. Father Couture, Father Jose, and Sister Safi were in a compromising situation. In that moment, before she could flee, they attacked Sister Abhaya with deadly intent. Sister Safi grabbed an axe from the kitchen and struck Sister Abhaya on the head. The post-mortem report later confirmed that Sister Abhaya had suffered severe head injuries. After the attack, they dragged her body to the well and threw her in, hoping to cover up their crime. Once these revelations were aired on television, the CBI immediately started questioning Father Couture, Sister Safi, and Father Jose in their office. However, in 2009, all 3 were released on bail. It was a shocking development, especially considering that Father Jose was cleared of any wrongdoing. From 2009 to 2019, numerous hearings took place, but the case seemed to be dragging on without any resolution. Finally, in 2020, the Kerala High Court made a significant decision. Based on the results of the narco tests and Raju's testimony, the court sentenced Father Thomas Couture and Sister Safi to life imprisonment for the murder of Sister Abhaya. The court also imposed a fine of 5 lakh rupees on both of them. In a twist of fate, one of India's longest-running murder mysteries was finally solved, all thanks to Raju, the thief whose testimony brought justice after 28 long years. What do you think about this incredible story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and help us reach 30,000 subscribers. Thank you for your support.